建筑会为您带来的建筑与房产系列公开课。本期呢，我们的主题是针对中高密度开发的资源许可新政解读，以及在此基础上的经济适用高效的外墙材料选择。在今天直播的前半段呢，会有新西兰本地的外墙材料及塑料集成生产商 Dynex 为大家带来经济适用并且高效率零维护的外墙产品介绍，由 Richard 来主讲。Richard, please say hi to our audience.
Hello there. Good evening.
在直播的后半段呢，会由来自 Resolution Design 的 Sunil 为大家带来对Resource Consent 也就是资源许可新政的详解。Sunil, please say hi to the audience as well.
Hello, everyone.
然后在直播的最后还会有来自 Dynex 的 Process Engineer 郭平晨，为有疑问的朋友们带来中文的解答。郭平也请您跟大家打个招呼。
大家好。
如果您在直播中有任何问题，欢迎您来登录后花园的留言功能进行提问，我们会在直播的最后为您解答。OK， 本期的公开课在分享知识的同时，也为大家带来了抽奖的福利。在直播结束后半小时，会在我们的直播交流群内进行提问。第一位正确回答的朋友将获得$100的后花园生鲜达代金券。那么我们今天的问题呢是 Dynex 的 Palisade 产品保修年限是多少年？答案会在本期的公开课中揭晓。那么进群的方式呢，会在公开课的详情页内去扫描二维码。那么现在我将开始分享屏幕，首先会有 Richard 带来他部分的演讲。Richard, I'm about to start sharing my screen. Can you start whenever you are ready?
Great. I'll do that.
Cool.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So, welcome everybody, and thank you, Lily, for that introduction. Today, I'm going to discuss who are Dynex. We're going to talk briefly about building today for tomorrow. We're going to take a closer look at Palisade weatherboards. We're going to cover some checks and balances about the system and some frequently asked questions. We're then going to briefly touch on some new enhancements to the Palisade system, such as box corners and facings for windows. Next slide, please. Who are Dynex? Dynex is a New Zealand-based plastic extrusion specialist with over 40 years of experience in the plastic extrusions field. Part of the Ali-Axis group, which includes companies like Marley and RX Plastics in New Zealand, but a massive business worldwide based out of Europe. Has a West Auckland-based manufacturing plant with warehouse distribution facilities via Auckland and Christchurch. Locally, we run 17 extrusion lines on a 24-hour, 5 days a week situation. So that's 75 people employed full-time. Next slide, please. Dynex make a number of products, but are well known for its building products focus. As Dynaflash is pictured, there is also Palisade weatherboards, Dynexafeet, and cavity closers. Dynex has a extremely good experience in the glazing seals field for aluminium joinery, and also services a broad business-to-business component manufacturing part of its business and makes materials for other manufacturers. Next slide, please. Building today for tomorrow. When it comes to design for residential housing, it's important to maximize the site coverage. For this, we need to think carefully about cladding choice, because as we know with houses today, it's more about 2- and 3-story houses than it is about single-story. Therefore, minimizing maintenance is a design consideration that should be considered prior to construction, because once you've built, you're faced with a lifetime of that product and whatever maintenance is required. It's also important in today's construction to consider build times. Some material, as we're experiencing a construction boom in New Zealand, the time frame for getting hold of materials may vary. It also is important to reduce the amount of time of construction, as this will reduce costs. Things like scaffolding will result in extra costs if the construction time is longer. Next slide, please. So what about Palisade? Palisade is a pre-finished engineered weatherboard system. It's designed for New Zealand's unique environment and provides the look of a traditional weatherboard, but without the maintenance. Palisade weatherboards never need painting. Palisade is available in 3 profiles. Traditional, which is pictured on the house in this picture here, rusticated in smooth and a wood grain finish. It comes in a range of 6 pre-finished colours and a standard length of 6.3 metres, although longer lengths are also available. Here is pictured the traditional profile closer up. You'll see that it's a double profile weatherboard. This is a rusticated smooth shown on the house on the right. And the wood grain finish on the rusticated profile offers a pattern that some people prefer, a more rustic appearance. Palisade is proudly made in New Zealand. There aren't too many claddings that are made in New Zealand these days, but this is one of them that continues to be made here. Palisade is made to last. It comes with a 25-year warranty, but has been in the market 29 years and still going strong. It's not going to go brittle or yellow over time, and has many happy customers. The comments here refer to a home that was built in 1992. Speaking to the homeowners recently as they embarked on another project with Palisade, they commented how it still looks as good as the day it went up. And this has been built on a house right next to the salt spray in the sea. And so it's still lasting very well on that home. Palisade is easy to work with and quick to install. It's one reason why Built Smart, a Waikato-based New Zealand builder of transportable houses, have chosen Palisade as one of their preferred claddings for more than 20 years. How about some checks and balances? Oh no, it's made of plastic. Well, as much as we hear some negative stuff about plastics, it's important to note that there are both good and bad plastics. It's about how you use them that is important. In our world, plastics keep so are part of our everyday life. So there's not too much we can do without interacting with products and polymers of plastics. So plastics play an integral part of looking after our most valuable assets. They keep our buildings alive. But cladding in paint and time equals cost and upkeep, dollars that could be put into something else other than maintenance. And Kiwis are not good at looking after their houses. Next slide. And Kiwis are not good at looking after their houses. So you don't want a house that looks like that, I would suggest. Palisade weatherboards are long lasting and you won't have to worry about painting them. Next. Dynex is also an ISO 14001 compliant company, and the materials used for Palisade are 100% recyclable, provide a long product lifespan, and can be recycled at the end of their life. So let's compare Palisade to other weatherboards of the marketplace. The first thing you'll find with Palisade is that it's about a third faster than to install than timber weatherboards, and about 8% less in cost when you compare the finished products. It's twice as fast to install as linear and about a third less in cost once you finish the product. The important thing with Palisade are costs up front, but no costs beyond the construction process that you would still have to pay with these products. And imagine the scaffolding savings. Okay, but how does it perform in a fire? Well, as you can see, the building here is a Mangatoroto New Zealand Fire Services building. It's been clad for 15 to 20 years in Palisade weatherboards. So clearly the fire service don't have a problem. And here's a case study more recently completed of Henderson Valley Road. We're going to show you a video shortly of this case study. It is a 3-storied building, and there are 3 of them on as part of the project. The key things to note here about this project is this is the highest level of fire design that you would enter into with a building, and the majority of this buildings are clad in Palisade, which is selected as the primary cladding because of its maintenance and durability. The cost savings up front were good at $50,000, but projected to save far more than that over the projects over 25 years. The important thing to note is Palisade doesn't suddenly stop working after 25 years. It continues on performing and will continue to perform in this case. So maybe we could, we'll finish this presentation and then we'll click into that video. Finally, I'd like to talk briefly about the fact that not only is Palisade a good looking product, but we've added enhancements like the box corners here and the facings around windows to provide a character look that some people are looking for their houses these days. For more information, I'd encourage you to talk to Dynex and we would be able to supply more information about these. There is a definite sweet spot for Palisade when it comes to thinking about low maintenance, weatherboards and lighter colours, and this will give you the ultimate in terms of your savings. Finally, I'd encourage you to go to palisade.co.nz for further information about Palisade. And any questions refer to product spec. Alternatively, there are some details here that you might want to take a photo of, or come back to product spec, I say, for further information on contact details after the show.
Yeah. Okay, thanks Richard for your presentation, and we do have a few questions for you, but I would like to ask Wu Peng so he can provide the Chinese version for the explanation.
Happy to do that, yeah.
So Yeah, cool. So 郭平在这边的话，我也想代替我们的观众们向您问一下啊，因为您有说像我们的这个weatherboard，它是一个非常低维护，几乎是零维护这样的一个产品材料。我想请问一下您，它在新西兰这样高紫外线的环境下，它是会有一个怎样的抵抗作用呢？它的就是对褪色以及对产品性能自我保护的这样的一个效果，究竟有什么样的一个程度？可以请您解释一下吗？
对，因为这个 palisade 它是有一层，它的表面是有一层专门的一层外面保护层的。那么这一层保护层呢，我们是在澳大利亚还有在法国都经过了非常严酷的这一个气候试验。那所以呢，就是这一层保护层在相等于25年的时间里头，它是不会褪色，它也不会开裂，也不会变脆。就是它基本上它的这个颜色和这一个表现跟它第一天的时候没有多少区别，唯一要做的也就是每年你只不过是需要用水冲洗一下就可以了。
那么请问咱们这个水冲洗跟平时的雨水下大雨相比，是不是雨水其实日常就能对它起到一个比较好的清洁作用呢？
对，它这个冲洗它主要是就是说把一些灰尘和有时候会有一些一些其他的一些脏的物质给它刷掉。雨水呢，有时候它不可能说是完全的把这些完全洗掉。所以呢，一般来说我们说你基本上每年你用一点那种所谓的这个30 seconds 啊之类的那些药水就可以把它这个直接用自来水冲一遍就可以了。
那么对我们有一些朋友，他可能是想要对自己的外墙进行一个刷漆，如果他用了 palisade 这个产品的话，假如说他想要去刷漆，那么请问这个会带来一系列什么样的反应呢？是不是说我们的这个维护成本就会变得更高呢？
就是我们 palisade 它的一个设计的一个主要的优势就是说是不需要刷漆。那么如果你是一定想要刷漆改变它的颜色呀或者之类的，那么 palisade 它只能够刷到这个浅颜色的漆，不能刷深色的。
明白。所以说您讲。
深色的颜色呢，它会造成这一个材料的这一个受热增加，那么减少它的寿命。那么但是呢，同样一旦你刷了漆，你就必须一直刷下去，就跟木的这个 weatherboard 一样了，你就要一直刷下，过个几年刷一次，过个几年刷一次了。
明白。那么请问咱们六种预制的颜色，它们全部都是浅色的吗？大概是白色、灰色，还有什么其他颜色的选择呢？
就是说呢，它这里头基本上都是浅色，有白，现在比较好，就是比较用的比较多的一个是白色，再有一个是那一种就是说带灰的那一种，像是那种石板岩的那种颜色。那么还有一种呢是像那种沙子的颜色，带一点更灰一些。还有一种是米色的，如果用中文来说。
所以其实咱们6种预制的颜色主要也是浅色为主，并且呢，对我们这种相对比较近现代的像现在大家的建房趋势来讲，其实这些颜色的搭配也是绝对够大家去选择的。
对，没错。
然后最后一个问题在这个6.3米的这个长度，我们也可以看到图片上，它是一段一段，就是一条一条的这种形状。请问这个6.3米，它是一个板的形状来的吗？还是说它是长条形的？在安装的时候就是用过来的原材料？
对，这个6.3米是这个板的长度。这个板本身的高度是250毫米。它就相当于2块传统的这个 weatherboard 的这个宽度。
所以它在安装的时候其实应该也是比较轻便的，因为它其实是这种比较薄的，然后宽度也不是说特别宽，250毫米。
对。
好的，
就是说它这个安装是很方便的，每一块板就直接 cover 了差不多2个平方米的这个面积。
好的， 谢谢您。那我们接下来的话呢，可能就会把我们的屏幕转交给Sunil。现在我们在直播间内的朋友的话呢，如果您没有走开的话，我们现在将会为大家带来关于资源许可的新政的解读。也非常感谢 Richard 的这个演讲内容啊。我们现在将会播放一个案例的视频，然后是我们在 Resolution Design 在 Henderson 的一个3层住宅的开发项目，这个项目内就使用了 Palisade 系列产品。
The project is quite unique. We came at it from a position of here is a site that has a lot of potential, but it's sitting at a precipice between industrial features on one side and residential on the other. Bridging that was critical. It's a sizable project. We're looking at 18 4-bedroom apartments, which are made up of 3 buildings. So what we've allowed for is car parking along one end of the entire development. Then you have your shared park space, call it a play area and a people zone, which is a feature that really promoted the residential nature and intent of the site. So I'm Sunil Bakshi. I'm the project architectural lead. So we're involved from the procurement of the site right through the initial design, develop design, final design, and issue to client after build. We're building residential housing. We're building housing for people in need. We're building housing in a market that demands it, where we can achieve a high density of development as we have at Henderson Valley, while achieving a traditional look, something that you can call home. Palisade achieves that, and our clients are very happy with that result. You get the benefit of a traditional home. However, you avoid the pitfalls. You avoid the fading of color, timber that starts looking old after a couple of years. So selecting cladding systems that could both accentuate a design feature, but also provide some traditional architectural features to our buildings were critical. The Henderson Valley project is quite a large-scale structure. When you're looking to build 30 meters wide by 60 meters long, you have to start considering the kind of materiality, cladding systems you're going to use, something that lasts, doesn't need replacement, doesn't need constant maintenance or painting to maintain its look. Given we're working at such high scales, 3 stories, 7, 8, 9, 10 meters off the ground, it's not realistic to be repainting it annually or every couple of years. What's great about the Palisade cladding system is once it goes up, that's it. You install it, the scaffolding comes down, and you can move on. And that's a great benefit from both a design, build, and from my client's point of view. We're always thinking about the people who live in there from a fire design point of view, from a safety point of view, and from a stance of is this home? We're designing to meet the end user's needs. Given that you're putting so much housing in such close proximity, the fire design requirements of the job are far greater than a typical household. So we're designing to the highest level of fire design for residential purposes. As the designer on this project, I've been able to bring the best qualities of Palisade while maintaining the fire design requirements. So using lining systems internally and cladding systems externally that work in unison to stop a fire for up to the 60-minute allowance required, which is twice as high as your typical residential household. We would absolutely use Palisade again on future projects, and we are. We're working on a number of similar and larger scale developments where we are specifying Palisade cladding. It's a wonderful product, it's easy to install, and it's going to last. As a designer, I couldn't think of any better expectations from our cladding systems and our buildings in general.
好的，非常感谢刚刚的这个视频的分享啊，我们也可以看到这个 Henderson 的3层的建筑，其实说实话，对我们的防火也好，以及对外墙的清洗也好，都对外墙材料的性能有着非常高的要求。那么在中高密度的住宅成为我们现在建设和开发的一个趋势的前提下，其实我们的很多在业内的人士对我们的资源许可的新规有非常多的疑问。那么今天我们非常有荣幸的请到了来自 Resolution Design 的 Sunil Bakshi 来跟我们分享一下关于他对我们resource consent 的一些新的见解。Thank you very much for the project, Sunil. I'm about to open your presentation and have our audience. I have sent the audience the Chinese version in the group chat, and you can start when you're ready. Thank you.
Yep. Can you turn on the slideshow, or does that not function?
Okay. I usually just zoom in because for people who are using their phone to watch the webinar, this is the best. So is that okay for you? Is that big enough?
Yeah, there's just some animation that won't work then. That's the only thing.
Okay, yeah. No, it's okay. I will start playing.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Cool.
That's not visible on my end.
Okay. Is this playing? Do you want this
Yes,
view?
it's the wrong screen. You need the other one.
Oh, sorry.
It's under slideshow.
Slideshow. Yes. So from beginning.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. It keeps having this overview for me. Is that okay?
Yeah, if you're happy to use that, that's fine.
Okay. Cool.
Wonderful. All right. Look, thank you so much for having me at this presentation, everyone. My intent here is to explain a little bit about resolution design, what the future of designing in Auckland, Wellington, Whangarei, a lot of New Zealand's larger cities is going to result in. So that's going to be the cornerstone of my presentation. We have also allowed for some examples so I can explain what the bill, once it comes into effect, what that's going to mean. But we'll start at the start. So this is architecture and design in 2022 and beyond. And we'll look at building principles and the Amendment Bill 83. So again, my name is Sunil Bakshi. I am the Director of Resolution Design. And if you have any questions or would like to get in touch with us, my details are on this slide. So please feel free to contact us. So this is just a brief schedule. We've gone over it briefly. I'm going to point out what we do, some building legislation, which is important for clients, contractors, builders, and homeowners alike. So it's going to be quite important to look at that. We'll go over the concept design examples and then some questions. So what we do, some keywords at the start of this page point out what we really look into, but we can move straight into the next page, which tells you from a starting point, we are architectural designers. Next slide, really. So we're architectural designers who mainly have expertise in medium to high density developments. We have a team that does standalone single house projects, but as the director, my expertise for the last decade has been in large scale construction, large sites, or trying to take a site and providing the most out of it, building the most units you can, building the best outcome, considering all legislation, fire design, and safety, as well as the financial gains for our clients at the end of the project. So this gives you a brief breakdown where we look at initial bulk and location design, site layout, design yield, regulatory assessment, which we'll go over today, planning assessment, which is a big part of the changes to the bill, sun shading study, things to make sure that what we actually design do result in good livable homes. And then we go on to develop design, where you'd have your building consent, cladding review, product review, weather tightness, which is very important in New Zealand, fire assessment and design. Again, a big concern in New Zealand, given that we predominantly build out of timber. And then detailed design for construction, the oversight resolution design provide for our clients and the general construction industry while construction occurs.
Yes, and now, sorry, I'm just going to stop you there. Would you mind talk slightly slower, please?
Slower? Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And we also specialize in landscape design. We couple what we build with a good garden design, good outcome for the end result. It is a key driver for the current market, where we're not just building houses, we're building homes, something that is very livable. You can see yourselves living in it, you can see your clients living in it, and that is very important when we design. So we have in-house experts that deal with planting treatment, rain garden design, and water treatment, landscape schedules, planting defects liability, to make sure that every plant that actually is installed is protected for at least a year to make sure it grows. Detailed hardscape design, so we have a good balance of concrete, asphalt, and grass, lawn, planting, and trees. And permeable pavement design, where such systems are needed, given the changes to the laws that are coming into effect starting February 2022. I've got an example of one of our sites on Chapel Road, which is next to the Buddhist temple, where resolution design provides construction oversight, where we are present on site every week with the builders, with the client, making sure it's being built correctly. If there's any questions, we want to make sure we're helping and our team get the best result. So we can move on to the building legislation, which is covering the bill, the Building Act, and the Resource Management Act, which is the critical item today. But understanding the difference between the Resource Management Act and the Building Act is going to be critical for that first step. So building legislation, it is New Zealand's environmental controls that are based on the Resource Management Act. So the pyramid you see on your screen is based on how the government comes to policies and agreements and the law that you must follow to address the environment in which you are building. For buildings themselves, New Zealand's building controls are based on the Building Act 2004. And this diagram, some of you may be aware of. It is quite a common diagram that we have created here. And this relates to the house. Now, if you were to compare the two of them side by side, by moving on to the next slide, effectively, when you have the government policy, if you want to click once, that is the what? Click once, please.
Click where? What?
Yep.
Yes.
Anywhere, what? Meaning what you can build. And then if you click again, and the Building Act is about how, meaning how you can build. So again, the building policies, if you have a site, how many units, what you can build, how high, and so on. Then the Building Act deals with how you actually build that building. And today's seminar, the bill is going to affect the what you can build component. So the information shown in green is what is now being updated given the rapidly growing need for housing in New Zealand. So the bill, I have mentioned it, I'm now going to talk about it. So what is it? The bill amends the Resource Management Act to rapidly accelerate the supply of housing. As a lot of you may be aware, there is housing crisis in New Zealand. A lot of developers, investors are now going to be able to help address that. By working with good designers and good architects and good builders, we want to be able to build the most we can out of a site and provide good designs, and this bill will enable those efforts. So where are the changes proposed? I may be talking to an audience in Auckland or New Zealand-wide, but we can clearly point out that these are all in Tier 1. So click please, Tier 1 council areas. These are Auckland, Hamilton, Tauranga, Wellington, and Christchurch. There are changes to Tier 2, but we aren't worried about those just yet. We'll come back to those. These are the key areas where these changes are going to occur. So what are the changes? For most residential zones, so this is most sites in these zones which I've spoken about, there's going to be allowance for at least 3 dwellings per site. Click please. 3 dwellings per site. And there'll also be allowance provided the new standards can be met that there's no minimum site area. A lot of developments and a lot of land has been limited because you needed to make sure you had 1 house per 400 square meters or 1 house per 200 square meters. That rule is gone. As long as you can work with good designers to comply, you can maximize your site. Each dwelling is now also allowed to be 3 stories high or 11 meters. There's a 12-meter allowance for the roof component, but the building itself can be within 11 meters. Then there's a flexible height in relation to boundary standards, which has now come into effect, which is going to help us achieve the 3-story height. The idea of this bill isn't to change the way we design. It is allowing us to take those designs and maximize your site. Look at how much space you have and what's the best way to build. I think this act is going to go a long way in helping us all achieve that. Now, what's the current progress? So this is updated as of early last week. On the 2nd of December, we reached the select committee where MPs are meeting to look at reports and information. And now we're waiting for the second reading where it's going to occur. Once the second reading occurs, the Committee of House, the MPs will vote, and they'll do a third reading, and then if everything goes as planned, we should have royal assignment. Now, the reason this is critical is at the first reading and the upcoming second reading, both parts of the House, National and Labour and many other parties have expressed a keen interest in achieving this outcome. So it's effectively where we're going to be very, very soon. So I mentioned the royal assent. If you could click one more time, please. Thank you. So the royal assent is, once that happens, the bill is signed by the Governor General and it becomes an act. So it becomes law. Meaning, at this point, the bill will introduce into the structure as law, and everyone here can start acting on those laws and those requirements. So we'll look at some examples now, just so we can see what it is that is going to occur. So if you go to the next page, please. Effectively, you have a site like this, which is very common around Auckland and many cities. You have an existing dwelling, you have an existing garage or a minor unit, and you have street front access. And the site, this example is about 750 square meters approximately. There could be slightly smaller sites, or there could be slightly larger. Effectively, this is quite common of single house zones or housing zones that are large to an extent, but a lot of investors, builders, and homeowners haven't been able to develop. If you were to look at this example, one way to develop it would be to simply work with the back of the site. Again, we have the existing dwelling, we haven't moved that. We have the street front access, that hasn't changed. We've still got the same site area, but now we're introducing let's say two 3-bedroom duplex units. So this is something you can do under the current act, but the key difference with the bill is now you can do this without a resource consent. If you have a good designer, you can achieve this without applying for a resource consent. So this is probably the most cost-effective design that's available if you've got existing dwellings near the street front and it's well positioned. If you look at another example, again, the exact same site, street front access we'd keep. Under the mixed housing suburban zoning, which is a lot of sites, and then you have your mixed housing urban and mixed housing terraced house apartment building zones. For a mixed housing suburban site, with a proper designer and a proper planning expert, you can achieve this outcome, which is effectively 2 3-bedroom duplexes, approximately 110 square meters, and another 2 3-bedroom duplexes. You'd still need to have your outdoor space, good solar design, but under the current under the current rules and regulations, under the Auckland Unit Plan, you can achieve this with good design, right? But if we were to compare that now to what the bill does, effectively with the bill, you can expand on that considerably. You can now go to 3 stories. So you may have all 3 stories or some 2-story buildings and some 3-story buildings. And you've got, again, in this example, you've got 1 3-bedroom terraced house on the corner and then 5 4-bedroom terraced houses, 3 stories high. And then you've got 1 3-bedroom near the street front. What this effectively does is your yard setbacks and your requirements have changed to the point you can allow for height and relation controls and design to achieve this outcome. It is still very important to have good outdoor space, good access, and a good design, but the bill should allow us to achieve that with a lot of land that's available in Auckland, Wellington, Hamilton, and a lot of large cities that it applies to. So I provided a brief summary of what the bill effectively does. In simple terms, it's a new zone, which is going to be called the new density residential standards for houses, for how residential sites can be developed. The new standard will apply from the date it is notified, and we anticipate that's going to be sometime in August. It could be sooner. So it's a very good time to consider what each of you want to move forward to. There is a housing crisis, there is a building and construction boom, and this is only going to exacerbate that, but hopefully in a positive light for a lot of homeowners and a lot of construction companies. For most residential zones, we now understand we can do three dwellings per site. Provided the new standards have been met, you do not need a resource consent. Each dwelling can go up to 3 stories high, and there's much more flexible height and relation rules in place. One thing to note is the impervious coverage hasn't actually increased that much as compared. So that effectively means this bill is heading towards fewer car parks on site. So rather than a double garage and a large driveway, you have shared driveways, you have maybe a single car park for 3 or 4 bedroom terraced houses. So that's the direction we seem to be heading in. It also allows us to maximize what we can build. And that's really the end of my presentation as to what we're looking to achieve. I welcome anyone to raise any questions or talk to us if there are sites that you're looking to investigate. I think it's the right time to prepare for what the future bill is going to hold for all of us.
Cool. Thank you. So now I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can have my face back. Okay. Thank you, Sunil, for your presentation. In terms of resource consent, I do have a question for you. So, compared to previously, like when people want to do some development, they have to apply for resources consent. And to now that when they want to do medium high density houses, they don't have to do resources consent anymore. Do you think how much time for a developer that they can save when this new regulation is going to happen?
You can save a phenomenal amount of time. Now, we need to be very careful here because you still need a resource consent once you're doing 4 or more units. But if you have up till 3, either 3 new or 1 existing, 2 new, you don't need a resource consent. For a project like that, you can spend easily a month and a half to 2 months working with a good designer, and then you'd spend at least another month with Auckland Council if everything goes well. I'm sure lots of people here know that council tends to take a lot longer than a month, so you could easily spend 2 months, if not 3, waiting for them. So that's half a year. That's up to 6 months of time saving, and you can design, you can get to building consent, and you can get to construction up to 6 months sooner, which is only a positive and is very much needed.
Yeah, I think for this market right now, for everyone, like the more time you save, that's like basically saving you money. And the sooner you enter the market, that's like in the future, more profit will be there for you. And another question is, you talked about quite a few projects, design or the concepts. And in what case would you suggest to use Dynex products like Palisade? And also in terms of fire rating, how do you see that performance using Palisade?
Okay, with Palisade, like many cladding systems, it is a designer's responsibility to understand the product. Resolution Design has worked very hard with Palisade to understand the benefits of the product and the challenges. With any product, there's always going to be some challenges and there's going to be some benefits. I am of the belief that Palisade has vast advantages and benefits when installing at 3 stories high, because that's where the bill and the law is heading towards. We're no longer talking about single-story houses. We're talking minimum 2, but most likely 3-story buildings. And these are heights of about 11 meters. You cannot expect to install scaffolding every 2 years to wash your house. It's not realistic. Or even just repaint your house. With Palisade, it's a product that is plastic PVC based. It's easy to install. There's no paint requirements, and it lasts. It really lasts. The fire design requirements, given that it is plastic, everything can burn. I cannot stress that enough. Any cladding system, even brick, burns, but it burns after different amounts of time. So with Palisade, it is important to design so you can install it at 3 stories. It can be done. And as per the example in our video, it's the highest fire risk design, because that's not just 3-bedroom apartments. It's right now being used by Kayonga Ora for transitional housing, which is the highest risk, which is temporary housing, which requires the highest level of alarm, a Type 5 alarm system, and requires 1 hour, 60 minutes of fire rating. And we have achieved that with Palisade, so it can be done. Keep in mind, under the bill, terrace housing only requires 30 minutes. So we've achieved twice that. So it can be done.
Okay, thank you, Sunil. 在直播间的朋友们，现在我想总结一下刚刚我们设计师 Sunil 讲过的，就是不管什么样的外墙的材料，这都会有不同的优点或者是缺点。那么一个好的设计师或者是建筑设计师，他们需要做的就是尽可能的去了解某种材料或者是某个品牌，了解它的就是优势跟这个缺点之后，根据这个项目去正确的来选择。如果说我们的开发商或者说我们的 builder就仅仅想要非常极端的去要求它绝对不可以这样或者绝对不可以那样，那么在我们的建筑行业中几乎是没有这样一种材料可以产生的，并且在防火的这个方面呢 Dynex 的产品已经达到了双倍的就是 Council 要求的这个标准，可以说它是非常可靠，并且也能够达到我们这个25年的保修这样的一个要求。好的，现在郭平我刚刚看到您不小心从直播间退出去了哈，您做的是不是有点无聊？那么现在我有一些问题是要给到您的。像我们有用户想要问因为这个材料它是塑料制成的，那么热胀冷缩在这个塑料的表现方面会对我们的建筑外墙造成什么样的影响呢？可以请您解答一下吗？
对。这个首先呢，也就是为什么我们的这一个材料呢，使用的是浅色系。就是因为你的颜色越深，它对这一个夏天，它对这一个太阳光线的这个吸收越强，所以这个板材呢，它的这个温度升高的就会比较多。所以我们的浅色系，首先它的这一个热量的吸收的，它的这个反射掉的比较多，它吸收的很少。另外，这一个安装的这个设计本身是允许这一个，因为任何材料它都会热胀冷缩，就是这个设计本身是允许这一个材料它来在它的这一个安全的范围内来伸缩一些的，所以这个在这个整个的房子的这个建筑设计过程中间，它这个是足够安全的。
明白。也就是说，其实您提到的其他外墙材料，它们本身也会有热胀冷缩这个情况的产生，只是说当我们用 Dynex 的产品的时候，设计师要针对这个产品的性能，在设计的时候预留出足够的空间，那么在使用的时候以及安装的时候，它就是安全的。
对，没错。
Okay. Now I have a question for Richard, because there are people asking who can install palisade. Would you mind to answer that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Palisade can be installed by a licensed building practitioner. There is no need to use a licensed cladder or anything. Basically a licensed builder can install palisade. We provide service to the builder if he is installing for the first time, and we will be able to come out and show them how to use the product if necessary. But does that answer the question, Lily?
Yeah. And the other question is coming to cost. So there will be people curious about how much it is per square meter and what would be the best way for them to order. Would you mind to answer that?
Okay, so two questions there. Square meter cost. I guess we get asked to quote sort of a number, a ballpark figure. So it's around about $180 to $200 per square meter installed on a wall. The second question relates more how to order. We sell palisade through distributors, building merchants, placemakers, Bunnings, and the like. And we sell the product in a house lot. If you have a set of plans, we can provide a takeoff of those plans for your distributor, or for you to take to your distributors to get a price. When it comes to ordering, we carry the product in stock. Now, it is a busy time to be constructing houses, but right at the moment, if you were to place an order for palisade, we're in the position to be able to supply that product pretty much immediately, or within a week, let's say. So clearly the position would be to it's available, it's accessible, and you can get what you want because we supply it right down to the last component.
OK, thank you. 我相信对直播间很多的朋友来讲，可能大家听到由塑料制成的外墙，心里面都会多多少少犯一点嘀咕。但是实际上，这个材料的存在也是因为为了适应新西兰的环境而产生的。所以呢，非常感谢今天3位带来的精彩演讲。我相信，不管是从材料的了解的方面，还是对我们新政的解读，都一定会给您带来一定的启发。那么直播即将接近尾声，如果您还不在我们的直播的交流群里面的话，还请您到直播间的详情页去扫描2维码来进入。因为认真观看直播的您一定知道，今天我们的抢答的问题就是 Dynex 的 Palisade 产品保修年限是多久呢？那么有奖抢答将在直播结束后的半个小时左右在群内公布问题。第一位正确回答问题的观众朋友将会获得后花园生鲜达100刀的代金券1张。也请您点击屏幕上面的关注主播，然后持续关注由我们建筑会带来的系列公开课。那么下期公开课呢，我们请到了 Genius Homes 跟 Auckland Council 为您详细的解答首次开发建房需要注意的事项，以及如何快速获批建筑许可，还有明年建筑业的行业趋势。本周四下午的3点钟，我们诚意十足的公开课内容千万您不要错过。感谢您今晚的收看 and thank you guys for the presentation. It's a really, really good content. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. 谢谢。
那么今天我们的用户就先跟您说一下晚安，记得我们周四下午3点钟我们直播间不见不散。谢谢您的关注，我们再见，拜拜。
Goodbye.